What's up, guys? Welcome back to another review of Last of Us.
This week we're going to be talking about episode 7, Left Behind. I thought what was really cool about this episode is it is DLC content to the actual game, but they used it as a filler episode this time, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, man, honestly, I never played the DLC, and I was pretty excited about this episode, because I never got to play the DLC, but yeah, it was very boring. I did like the story of seeing how Ellie got bitten and, the events that led up to it. But yeah, this episode almost put me to sleep. And on top of that, we don't even get to see what happens, between both of them. It just cuts to Ellie and Joel at the end.
Yeah, I agree with you. This episode was a little bit boring in my opinion, for sure. My biggest deal is a lot of filler episodes aren't supposed to be as good as the actual episodes that actually progress the story. And I feel like that's what we get here. It's creative, and I do enjoy what they did with the putting the DLC content as a filler episode, but it's still really boring.
Yeah, I wasn't against it. I was just hoping for, a little more. So let's go ahead and get to this episode. Ellie used a horse to drag Joel to cover inside of a house. We don't see her dragging him, but we do see like a trail, and we do see a horse inside of this house. So when they get back to the house, Joel wants Ellie to leave him there to die and go back to his brother.
You go north. You go to Tommy. You go.
And this is the moment where she kind of thinks back to her past, and this is where we get Ellie's backstory. It starts off with her in school, or that's what I thought at first was a school, but it's not. It's like some kind of like Fedra drills that she's doing. Saying that's where we learned that Ellie is a troublemaker. Who would have thought? Honestly, who would have thought that? And she's given two options by her superior: either start cleaning toilets one day and work for the chick she's having issues with, or be a superior officer one day and not have to work under somebody like the chick that she's having issues with. And I feel like that's the moment where she chooses the latter and says, okay, I'm going to go in on this federal thing and stop acting like a little child.
I can see the confusion on it seeming a little bit like school, because it does give the vibe of it being like a gym class, and they're in gym and they're running for they're running laps for gym, and that's the kind of vibe that it gives. But I feel like the real indicator here is the fact that there's no more schools. I mean, like, there is schools, but they're not your schools that you see today. They're Fedra schools, and so I get it 100%. I think that Ellie choosing the latter is Ellie doing what she has to do, because if you look at Ellie's character, I've never saw her as a good Fedra leader. She questions her own loyalty to them. I mean, even at this stage, even this being a prequel to the actual story, calling them fascists, which they are, I think she would make a better Firefly leader than she would a Fedra any day of the week.
That's funny that you say that, because as I'm watching the show, I'm thinking to myself, man, she'd make a better Firefly leader than a Fedra any day. But there's a scene when Ellie puts on a Walkman and she's just like jamming to this music. And I was thinking to myself, man, how many kids nowadays know what a Walkman is or even remember using one? But I thought it was super cool, and it's a good throwback because I actually had a Walkman, several of them. They never lasted very long, but I just thought it was cool to see it in the show. But let's get into her best friend, Riley. What did you think about her character?
Riley fits really well with Ellie. I think their personalities are awesome when it comes to comparing them to each other. And I feel like they're really comfortable with each other, which is a rare thing that you get in this environment, in this world. Now, to backtrack a little bit onto the Walkman, I mean, most kids nowadays don't even know what an iPod Nano is, let alone a Walkman.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, or not like just a regular
Exactly.
like iPod. Yeah, because back when iPods first came out, I thought that was like hot stuff right
And
there.
it was.
I really liked Riley. I didn't have any issues with her. I liked her character. I liked the actor. I thought that Ellie and Riley, I thought they played well off each other. I just wish there was more action, I guess, to the episode. But my main issue with this episode is the majority of it is all Riley taking Ellie out on kind of like a date at the mall. She takes her to like 5 locations, or I think there's 5 locations. I don't exactly remember. But the scene that really stood out to me was the arcade scene. 'Cause if you remember, a couple episodes back, Ellie and Joel, they go into this shop or whatever that has an arcade. And what are they playing? They're playing Mortal Kombat. Or she sees a Mortal Kombat game and she starts talking about it and how cool it is, and that her best friend, how good she was at it, at pulling off all these special moves and whatnot. But now we actually get to see in the show them playing this game together, and then Riley pulling off these special moves and doing the Melina fatalities, which was cool. It really brought it together, and I liked seeing that part. That part was not boring. It was kind of exciting.
My question is, how in the heck did they figure out the fatalities? I never even could figure those out as a kid without actually having to look them up on the internet. So for the fact that she figured them out without the internet is pretty significant in my opinion.
Pretty, pretty, pretty.
That is completely unbelievable. How would they? You're right. I didn't think that. How would they have ever figured out those fatalities, unless they just said,
Yeah, especially
no
in
way.
the amount of time that she was there.
I mean-
because she said that she's been spending a week or so in that mall. No. It would take hours, days to figure out this.
it would take so much time to figure that out. I mean, but I guess she did have enough quarters to
is
play.
true.
So
One thing I will give credit where credit is due is building up to the arcade. I did like the environment. I think the environment was really cool. I think the mall setting was super nice. I love seeing the different stores and what was looted and what wasn't looted. And, you could just really see people's priorities back in the early days. So I thought that was really interesting. That being said, I agree. I think the Halloween store and the arcade was by far my favorite. I know that I was thinking to myself watching this episode, if I was living during this crap, I'd be spending every single day in that dang arcade. 100%. You would not catch me anywhere else but that arcade. But I enjoyed the chemistry. I enjoyed the chemistry. The problem is there's not a whole lot to talk about this episode. It's just them kind of wandering around the mall. There's not a whole lot that sucks us in this episode, other than a few things here and there.
yeah, since this episode, is majority of them in the mall, let's kind of get into the one and only action scene that we really get in this episode, and that's an infected that they did not see, or Riley thought they've cleared out all the infected. Turns out there's one left, and all the playing and screaming, lights and noise and all that junk, kind of woke it up. And whenever Riley kind of reveals to Ellie what's going on, that she's now a Firefly and is being shipped out to like a new location. And then they get in like a little argument, a little fight. And then right as they make up, when they're about to share their first kiss with each other, because they both love each other. And that's when the infected comes running out and, starts to attack them. Now, there's one part of this that really kind of bothered me. It's when Riley shoots the infected. Like you see the infected like fall down, and they're like, "Run!"
Abandon your post! Flee for your life!
No, I really think that they could have killed the infected guy. I think they could have killed him pretty easily. Like they shot him, he fell down. They had but instead there's like, no, let's book it. But that's just my thoughts on it.
Hold on. I think it's great for the story just because it's hindsight 2020. You know what I mean? It's like this is their first encounter with and special infected, and so I feel like the adrenaline was pumping, and they were not thinking straight, and you could see it right here. So I feel like it's good in terms of realism, because I feel like this is how, two people that's never really encountered a an infected would act is something very similar to what they did, and so I feel like it's good in terms of realism. But sitting on the couch and actually watching the show, I also thought, I was like, why didn't they kill the special infected? But thinking about it, that's where I came up with that kind of conclusion. And that's another thing I also got to mention is that infected was on Ellie and Riley like white on rice. I mean, 100%. They couldn't move. Like I thought Ellie was going to get away for like 2 seconds, and then he was right there. He was just like on Ellie. But that being said, I knew. I knew. I saw the writing on the wall. They were both going to get bitten at this point. And it's super sad because Ellie loves Riley and Riley loves Ellie. And that brings us to this Romeo and Juliet-esque moment where they share their first kiss and their final kiss. And it's just so traumatizing because it's like, why do you guys got to destroy any fathom of happiness that anyone gets? It's just like 2 minutes of happiness and then we're going to destroy your life. And it's just a very big emotional roller coaster.
Yeah. Yeah, 2 minutes is the average span of someone being happy on this show. It kind of reminds me of Game of Thrones. Like someone's happy, then boom, they're gone. But yeah, I didn't really take in consideration of this being their first like encounter with an infected, and it does show how bad of an aim Riley is. But they do pull out the win in the end, in kind of a sense, because your whole Romeo and Juliet, yeah, it's pretty accurate. Since they both know they're gonna die, or they think they're both gonna die. But I was really, really hoping to see more of like that whole outcome play out, but we don't get to see it, and I doubt we'll get to see it next episode. It just cuts right back to Ellie and Joel because we see Joel or we see Ellie grab Joel's hand and Joel kind of grip her hand back like because you see how much he really loves her and how much she wants a family, and that's what he is to her.
Well, you could see that he was looking out for her, and that's why he said, go find Tommy. But like half of him wants to look out for her, and the other half of him wants to be selfish and wants her to be next to him during his final moments. And you can see this confliction that he's going through. Like when Ellie goes up the stairs, it's like his heart is so broken. Like you can see all that emotion on the table, and it's super sad. And so when Ellie actually comes back down, it's like he knows, like this is the one, this girl is my family, like she's a ride or die, so to speak. And I feel like that was really valuable for this episode. Like this is one of my favorite scenes because there's just so much a raw emotion that's going on right now. With all this being said, for a filler episode, it was good. It was a good concept. I do appreciate it because of my love for the show. But if you was just to watch this video versus actually watching the episode, it would be sufficient enough, to be honest. And I'll give it a 6 out of 10. And that's mostly because of it being creative by using the DLC content for the game as a filler for the actual show, which I do think is creative. I think it's cool. 100%.
I can go with a 6 out of 10. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't awesome either. Anyways, guys, that is our review for Last of Us Episode 7. It was like a rehash of the DLC, but thanks for checking us out. Put what you thought in the comments of your thoughts of the episode, and if you have any shows or movies you'd like us to cover in the future, put in the comments, and we'll get to them. Anyways, that's all we got.
Peace.
Peace out.